This video is going to show you how to build your own randomizer or kind of random game app where you hit a button and you'll get a random result from a set of pre-selected options. So just to show you how this demo works, so I hit go and it has a think and then it returns an item. So it returns an icon as well as a custom title. So if I hit go again, okay, and we get a different one. We've got lightning, so again, an icon and a title. And we got lightning again. We've actually got three options. So we've got bug again. Let's see if I can get the third one showing up. And it seems to be persistent on these two. And there we go, we've got a third option. Hey, it's a book. Okay, so this just shows the randomizer we've got. We've got three options. So I'm going to run you through how we've built this using AppStudio. So let's jump into AppStudio. I have created a randomizer form, and this is the visual layout. We have a button, the go button. We have an empty image control and also a label with a default value. So just looking at the styling of these, so these are all Bootstrap controls, or the label is a Bootstrap label. From here, the button is a Bootstrap button, and the image is a Bootstrap image. So the label, the styling, just to explain what we've done, I've set it as 100% width, and height I've given it 40. Left I've set as 0, so it'll be 100 width and it'll reach the far side. I've ensured the border radius is 0. Text align center, so this will put the text in the center. This is a styling or CSS rule I've had to apply. I've left the ID as label 1. The value I've set, hit go below, and that's the default text that will display. And if we click onto the image, again, I have set the, to make it central, I've used the properties here and some percentages so that it will remain responsive on different widths of device. So I've put the left value as 25% of the overall screen, and then the width is 50%. And then of course that will leave another 25% on the right-hand side. So that will automatically adjust depending on the width of the screen, and it will remain central. The button, I've again used a similar percentage kind of approach here. So left is 30% and width is 40%. That leaves 30% on the other side, which means it will be central. And I specified the height as 77, so it's kind of a bit of a larger button. The appearance is primary. You could change it to different colors if you wanted to, but I'm going to leave it as primary, Bootstrap blue, giving it an ID of go random, and the value of go. Okay, so those are our design elements, our controls. Now you'll notice I've got an image folder here in the Project Explorer, and the way I've done this is by actually going into File Explorer, and the image folder that I created, I've actually dragged that in to Project Explorer. I won't do it again because it's already there. But what I've done here, I've created an image folder within my project folder, and I've put some images that I'm going to use. So the first image here is a loading .gif. So that's what we see when we hit go. We see the loading GIF. And then I've got the three images for the bolt of lightning, the book, and the bug. And these are SVGs, or scalable vector graphics. And I've just grabbed these from the Open Iconic icon set, which is recommended by AppStudio. and it's available as a free download. So I downloaded this, I unzipped the folder, and then I just selected a few of the graphics that I wanted and put them straight into my image folder here in File Explorer. So you could put the whole icon set in here, but it's a little bit heavy. Don't include what you don't need. So this is just an example. I've included these. You can use any image type, so they could be JPEGs, GIFs, PNGs, or SVGs in this case. So they can be any image type. Okay, so that explains that folder there. Dragging it into the Project Explorer just makes sure that the files get included when you deploy the app, or either running it locally or deploying it to a server. Okay, so let's start having a look at the code. So if I click onto code, so this is all of the code that makes this randomizer work, and we'll break it into sections. So up here, I have defined an array called random content, an array, and it has 3 objects. So notice the curly brackets, 3 objects, which have an icon property and a title property for each. So I've set the icon as the name of the icon. And if you look at the reference for the documentation for the icons, you'll see that each icon has a name or a label that you can use to identify it. So here's Bolt. Okay, so that's the icon name that I've used, and I've just given it a title of whatever I wanted. So this is the data that will be used to populate the randomizer screen. Going on to the on-click event for the Go Random button, there are 3 lines here. So the first one changes the value of the label here to having a think. And the second line changes the image source of image 1 to the loading GIF. So that's what happens when I hit go, changes it to the GIF. And then this third line sets a timeout of 2000 milliseconds or 2 seconds. And the callback is a function called getRandom. And the function I've created, getRandom, down here. So this third part of our code, this is what does the selection of the random item from this random content. So first of all, it gets the number of items that are in the random content array. So random content.length returns the number of items, or the length of this data structure. And of course, in this case, it will be 3. So count will be 3. This is a good best practice kind of way to implement this, because it means if you wanted to add another one, then you wouldn't have to change your code down here, because it would automatically update and pick up on the number of items that are in your random content. But we'll leave it as 3. A random number is then calculated using JavaScript math functions. So first of all, it generates a random number between 0 and 1, because this is what this function does, math.random. That's a JavaScript function. And we multiply it by count, which will be 3. And then we math.floor it, which basically rounds it down to the nearest whole number. Okay, so we also log out this result to the console so we can see what's going on. So actually you can see that. We can see actually all these numbers being logged out to the console here on the left-hand side. If we try another time, this time it selected 2 as a random number. And we got 2 again. And 2 again. And then we got 1. Okay, so we're just logging out that result just for so we can understand what's going on. So we've selected a random number between 0 and 2, which is the important point there. because the reason it's not between 1 and 3 is because the math.floor function always rounds it down. So we will always get a number, it will generate a number between 0 and 3, but it will always round down. Okay, so once we've got that random number between 0 and 2, we then use that ID, or that number that's generated between 0 and 2, as the key on the random content array. So let's say this random number was generated as 2. This line here will go and get from the random content array the item with key 2. So actually the item with key equals 2 is actually this third one, because the way arrays work in JavaScript is that the first item has an automatic key of 0. The second one has an automatic key of 1. And the third one here will have an automatic key of 2. So arrays are what we call 0 indexed, which means the first item always has a key of 0. So that's what's going on there. So this is getting an item based on the random number and assigning it to a selected item variable. And then what that means is that within that selected item, we have the icon and title properties available to us. So that means that we can then update label1.value to the selected item.title. And we can update image1.source to the image. So we're using the icon name here and actually stitching it into a string which represents the location of that image. Okay, so that's what's going on. So just to demonstrate it again, we hit go. It has a think, and then it selects a random number, and then gets the related details and displays it on page. Okay, so do we actually need the delay? Well, of course, we don't. JavaScript could do it immediately. We've introduced the delay just from a kind of a user experience point of view. If you're implementing a game, it might add a bit of kind of interest, having to wait a few seconds for it. We could increase the time delay that it takes to generate it. So if we change it to 5,000 milliseconds, and we hit go, and you can see it's taking a little bit longer, and there we go, hey, it's a book. Also note, you could use any animated GIF that you wanted to be this holding image here. Also, you could add custom content in here, as we've said before. You could also add other properties. So let's say you wanted to add a description. You could update this data structure and add it the same for all of them if you wanted to. And then you could use the description somewhere else on the screen, create another label, and use selected item.description. So this data structure is flexible. Just undo that though for the time being. Let's say we want to get rid of the timer and we do just want to generate it immediately. Well, actually in this case, we can just comment out that function and call get random straight away. So let's see if that works. Make sure it's refreshed fully. And there we go. As soon as we hit go, it's actually generating straight away. The problem is when we get to the same in a row, it kind of almost looks like it's not working because we click twice and it's in the same one. But that's why maybe leaving the timeout. Let's drop it back down to 2 seconds. Might be a good option if we're kind of building a kind of random game.